we were heading south. I was not talking to my partner. He was literally, I was so cold. We were cold, and he was helping me put my gloves on as we were flying. I could see the snow line heading up the mountain there, and we tried to stay, there's a freezing point, and I tried to stay on that freezing point between the white and the green with the alpine trees, and we motored along there. The border is very distinct. It's got this cut in all the trees. By the time we crossed that lake, we were heading south. We didn't say anything, or we didn't talk. I was way too scared, way too nervous, and it was sunny, but it was super cold, overcast that day as we headed south. We actually hadn't been to this spot because, like I said, this ground crew had given us coordinates to go to. So they didn't like our spots as they were too close to the border. What I didn't realise was how far down south they wanted me to fly. As I was poking my way through the mountains, again, my weather expertise didn't come into play with my 5 miles ahead, because we started hitting some weather that I can't even describe how bad it was. I couldn't navigate at the time because I was just concentrating on flying and trying to get us down there without crashing. So my buddy was reading the coordinates and on the fishing GPS that he had on his leg. We came around one bend, and I was following some those big electrical wires. And when I rounded this corner, if I could say that the gates of hell opened up, it did, because this wind was something in my vast experiences with flying helicopters I hadn't experienced in the 15 odd hours or 12 hours that I had experienced wind like it. But I had every input, and he could see that I was fighting it, and he was worried, and I was scared shitless on the inside. He didn't say anything, but I just fought this wind for the next, I would say, 5 to 10 minutes, because we were flying at roughly 2 miles a minute. And yeah, this would have been about 30 minutes in. I'd say about 10 minutes we fought that wind for. And I felt it was pushing us into the ground, or pushing us into the side of the mountains. And I was doing everything I could to just keep the helicopter level and keep it at a height. And we were below the top of the mountains and just picking our way through. And not even realizing if we turned around a corner, it was a dead end. What were we going to do? We're traveling at that's 220 kilometers an hour at 125 knots. Like, there was so many stupid things that could have happened with not even looking at the route, the route that we were supposed to go. But we fought and fought and fought, and eventually the wind calmed down, and we came around a corner, and it was out. We're out of the wind. And I looked over at my buddy, and he didn't have a good look on his face. And I could tell that there was something wrong. And I looked at him and said, "What's wrong?" We had our headsets on. And he didn't want to tell me. And I said, I almost said his name, "What is wrong?" And he said, "Dude, I had this thing upside down. Our drop point was about 30 miles back the other way." So I said to him, "Are you telling me that we've got to turn around and go through the wind that we just went through?" And he just said, "Yeah." I put that stick hard to the left, and it looked like something out of the Blue Angels or an air show, because I stood the helicopter up, and at that point I just thought, live or die, something's going to happen. So we stood up and wheeled that thing around, and I went back through that wind for the second time. It was scary, to say the least. It was super, super scary. And we got through the wind, fought it again, and then got within the vicinity of where we believed the drop was, or the coordinates that were given. But we couldn't find the drop site. And with all the delays that had happened in Canada, and all the delays that had happened, like the wind and everything like that, and I hadn't done a weight and balance check, and I didn't understand about fuel, and I'd burnt more fuel than I thought. And I was looking down, and I said, we're not going to have enough fuel to get back. And I was trying to phone my contacts, fly the helicopter to find out where we were going. I believed that we were over the top, but there were houses and stuff down below us. We weren't out in the middle of the forest. So to conserve a little bit of fuel, I flew over to this little area that I could see and came in and landed and just idled it down and got on the phone and said, we can't find where we need to go. And they said that some of the guys would come out and show us. They would wave, a bunch of people would wave. So I spilled the helicopter up again, took off, flew over to where I thought the coordinates were again, and started flying around this housing, I wouldn't say estate, but the blocks were quite small. And then I seen 3 pickups only about 100 meters away from some houses, and there were some power lines, those high voltage lines that run through the forest, and they were sitting to the right of those. We weren't out in the middle of the forest like we agreed. We were in a small town, I believe, and I could see Seattle. We were down near Everett, Washington. I could hear would-be naval base on my headset. So I seen them down there. There were 3 pickups, and there appeared to be 7 or 8 guys. So I approached in for the landing, tried to see where the wind was coming. I had power lines to my right and power lines to my left, trees to my right. And I had to go down. I couldn't believe this is where they wanted me to put this thing. I'm a goddamn amateur. So I came around and approached in over the power lines, and my friend at the time, my co-pilot, my hot rider, he took his seatbelt off, and I said, get ready, we're coming in. And I'm trying to look out the top for the trees, trying to look out for the power lines. He takes his headset off and puts them, there's a strut in between the windscreen, puts them there, which cuts off my vision to the power lines. I just remember as I'm coming in, taking my hand off the collective, smashing that headset into him. I was so angry, but more than anything scared. And we came in and dropped on the ground. He got out. It was pandemonium at that moment. By the time we touched down, his door was open. The deal was, you don't come near the helicopter. If I seen anyone move, I was gonna lift up and go. So he jumped out, got a hold of the bag out of the cargo hold, opened the back door, pulling bags out, started closing it on the dash. I could see all the lights were off, means all the doors except the passenger, the co-pilot's door was open. So I started pulling up the collective as he's essentially just climbing in. By then we were some 5 feet in the air, and I was just doing a maneuver I'd only ever seen on TV, which is reversing out as well as gaining altitude and turning. Look, if you didn't know it, I looked like I knew what I was doing. We did a couple of laps to see them all take the bags into the car, into the trucks, and off they went. Well, we were euphoric in how we felt. So let me tell you about the ride back to Canada after doing our first drop.